Rape centre worker wins tribunal over gender critical beliefs. I just realised because I said they are worth this video is instantly demonetised. But anyway, that's just the title of the article. A woman who worked at a rape crisis centre was unfairly constructively dismissed, yes, still bald, for believing that those using the service should be able to know the sex of staff, a tribunal has found. It was blah. I mean, I would imagine that if a woman went through something like that, and she went, wherever I go next, I never even want to see a man, I would be like, fair. Yeah, no, yeah, okay. It also found that Edinburgh Rape Crisis Centre had unlawfully discriminated against Ros Adams, saying that management had conducted a heresy hunt against her. Because, see, all this stuff, that's exactly what it is. It's witch hunts. Right, cancel culture just became the modern day witch hunt because if there's anybody that you basically, as soon as you create an environment like that, if there's anybody saying some things that you don't like, you just point the finger at them, exactly like it was in Salem. And by the way, the only reason that the Salem witch hunts actually stopped was because the town leader's wife got accused. That's when it got dialed back. So, in other words, we should cancel culture all the people that are behind this. Anyway, it turns out that that's what works. The ruling said the decision to launch a disciplinary against Miss Adams it was because the centre's management wanted to make an example of her because of her gender critical beliefs. So there's this whole 2 + 2 does not equal 4. That will not be tolerated. The truth, that will not be tolerated in here. Miss Adams said the ruling had made 3 years of struggle worthwhile. She told BBC News, for me, it was dystopian. It was the strangest experience. I've never come across any other topic where to ask to talk about it and ask to find solutions that work for everybody is seen as hateful. And that is the problem with that entire discourse. It's basically it's a totalitarian ideology. You're not allowed to question it in any way whatsoever. And even if you say maybe this would be a better. Oh my god, you're literally killing us! Like that's basically. It's not open for discussion. It's not open for debate. Just like the church back in like the 1500s, right? That's just the way it is. It's the new church. You know, it's the same thing. We've already been over this. Like Sargon's spoken about it a lot. Where it is the new church, where you know if you're white, that's your original sin that you were born with, that you must spend your life atoning for, etc., etc. Like all that type of stuff. And it's also none of it is up for debate. You cannot question it. You can't do anything like that at all. Christians these days are actually a lot more open to debate and discussion, like friendly debate and discussion and all that. But I mean, I fuck with Christians nowadays. I mean, like not like fuck with them. Like I mean, like I like Christians nowadays because I mean, fucking hell, someone has to. Miss Adams said she thought there was a large number of people working in the sector who are fearful of talking about gender identity and the privacy of staff because yeah, there are certain discussions that you absolutely cannot have. I remember back in the day, you could say you were a Tory and you got a little bit of shit around the office and stuff like that. But nowadays, there are certain things where if you say this is my opinion on this subject, fired just immediately. HR will get you out of that door as fast as they possibly can, right? Because it's a totalitarian ideology and you're not allowed to question it in any way, shape, or form. And if you do, and by question it is one thing, disagree with it, holy shit, they will drag you in the street and shoot you in the head. Right? Basically, that is a totalitarian ideology. And they've got privilege because they now have laws backing it up. Where you can actually go to prison now for questioning it a little bit too much. People don't want to go through what I've been through, understandably, so they won't speak up, she said. And that's the chilling effect. Basically, that ideology is very, very aware of the chilling effect. It's the exact same thing that was used in totalitarian regimes. There's a reason that no one would criticise Hitler or Stalin or Mao or fucking Pot or anybody openly out in public because if they did, they weren't just as much at risk from the secret police of whatever nation it was in, but also from the public. Because even this is the weird thing that happens in loads of totalitarian regimes all the time is that person might totally agree with what you just said out loud. They might totally agree with it. However, there's too many witnesses. So they have to turn around and point the finger at you and scream and do all of this stuff because if they don't, then they run the risk, right? Or maybe they are that absolutely fucking Kool-Aided up to the eyeballs that they do genuinely believe it and they point at you and scream like that famous scene in The Body Snatchers, and they mean it. So a lot of people that are pointing the finger, some of them are doing it just for self-preservation, some of them are doing it just because they believe it. It's the same thing in every totalitarian ideology, which is why, and that creates a chilling effect where no one is brave enough to actually talk about this openly in public, because even just being stood next to a person saying that shit and not disagreeing with them hard hard enough is enough to get you dragged after the gulag. Right, so basically this is hanging. That's a lot like communist. Yeah, that's what it is. They're all communists. They're all totalitarians that want to force their ideology on you by force, and they will use the state as a weapon in order to do so. Keep up. That's what we've been learning the past few years. Rape Crisis Scotland, which sets service standards for member centres, has now commissioned an independent review into practices and procedures at the Edinburgh facility. Sandy Brindley, Chief Executive of Rape Crisis Scotland, said, "We believe that it is important that survivors can make informed choices about the services they can access at rape crisis centres. We know it is important for some survivors to have a choice over the sex or gender of their worker." And I think that's completely, like I said before, if a woman's just been raped by a man and she's like, yeah, I kind of don't want a man counselling me, I get it, right? That's fine. The tribunal heard that when Miss Adams joined Edinburgh Rape Crisis Centre as a counselling and support worker around February 2021, she was supportive of trans people and excited by its trans inclusion policy. In the months that followed, she began to feel there were issues around the way gender issues were dealt with by the organisation and described the atmosphere as eggshelly, which, from what I'm learning from, people that contact me, that's pretty much every single workplace. There's pretty much every single workplace now. Not here, Jesus Christ. My staff say whatever the hell they want. I've got two of my boys really, really like to butt heads over certain of them. Because one of them is basically a standard, normal, like a sensible leftist. Like, the normal, regular ones that you got back in the 90s. And the other one, well, you would all really like him. The tribunal noted that Miss Adams' view was that people using the centre should have a choice over who they receive support from on the basis of sex, and that sex is binary and everyone is either male or female at that level. Yes, on a biological level, you're either male or female. It's just fact. 2 + 2 = 4. You can scream 2 + 2 = 5 as much as you want from the mountaintops, even if you choose to do so. That's absolutely fine. However, at the end of the day, 2 + 2 = 4. It added, her belief was that whilst in most circumstances the distinction between biological sex and gender identity did not matter, that in a service dealing with sexual violence, the respondent should be honest and clear when asked to give a clear and unambiguous answer in order to provide that service. Users give informed consent. Yes, I believe in any decision you should be fully informed. Right, you don't want to turn up and sit down and go, this is a fucking man. Like, I just went through a very horrible experience with a man and would rather not relive that experience with another man. I think that is completely fair. Absolutely. Of course you want to speak to a woman, right? I don't think it's too much to care about the needs and wants of a woman who's just been raped. I think that should be the case. I just think, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm being unfair, right? But I just think it should be considered at least somewhat. But anyway, Miss Adams said she became aware that people who wrote to the centre about the subject were classed as bigots, and emails from them were kept in a folder called hate emails to be referred on to the commissar for further investigation. Much of the tribunal centred on a disciplinary process that began after Miss Adams sought clarity on how to respond to an abuse survivor who wanted to know if a support worker who identified as non-binary was a man or a woman. Some people who do not consider themselves to have a solely male or female gender identity describe themselves as non-binary, also known as attention-seeking. The tribunal found that the support worker in question had changed their name to one that sounded and appeared to be male. Management drafted a response clarifying that the centre did not employ men, but advised against divulging any further details due to staff privacy. Miss Adams responded in June 2022, saying that the issue appeared to be a minefield. The following month, she was invited to an investigation meeting regarding potentially transphobic views. A disciplinary process was later launched. Reminiscent of Kafka, yeah, pretty much any trial around these is Kafkaesque. Basically, the outcome's been decided before you even went in there. Like, the whole point of, like, a courtroom and everything is to go, did this person, in fact, do this or not? And no, it's been decided. The actual trial, the evidence, the prosecutor standing up saying a bunch of lies, your defence lawyer doing his absolute fucking best to keep you safe from a totalitarian system, all for show. Oh, show trials. Like, that's what they are. Same as in other totalitarian regimes. The tribunal found that the investigation should not have been launched and was clearly motivated by a strong belief amongst the senior management and some of the claimant's colleagues that the claimant's views were inherently hateful. Do you believe a certain thing? Well, then you're not allowed to job. You're not allowed to feed yourself. You're not allowed any of these things. You should be starving to death in the street because you believe that 2 + 2 = 4. And also you believe that rape victims should be given a choice in their treatment. Like, oh, what an awful opinion to have. Allegations of misconduct were upheld because, of course they were, because when a system is the final arbiter in all decisions regarding conflicts, even those involving itself, it will always, in every single instance, review it in its own favour. That's what happens when you have the monopoly on decision making. You can get away with whatever the fuck you want. Allegations of misconduct were upheld, but no action was taken. Miss Adams then chose to resign, which she absolutely should have done because it's obviously a really, really toxic, awful workplace where you're not allowed to have opinions that go against the status quo. The judgment said that the centre's chief executive officer, Miridul Sharp, who is a trans woman, funny that, appeared to believe that Miss Adams was transphobic. I mean, not hard. It's literally, that's genuinely not hard. Like, see if a trans person like came up to you and asked you for the time and you gave them the time, but not in the right tone. That's enough. That's enough to get labelled as transphobic. In fact, I'm a white male. I'm transphobic. That's just it. I'm just transphobic because I'm a white male. It said that so again, it's not hard. So all of you just need to stop caring about having that label stuck on you. It said that Miss Wadwa was the invisible hand behind everything that had taken place. It also said that it was nonsense to suggest any emails sent by Miss Adams were transphobic, and it was absolutely clear that a staff member changing their name to one that sounded male was going to cause difficulties. The judge said the disciplinary process used against Miss Adams was reminiscent of the works of Franz Kafka. Jesus Christ, a judge said that. Christ. The 20th century writer whose works were often characterised by nightmarish and confusing situations. The tribunal found that Miss Adams resigned as she could have absolutely no confidence going forward that the respondents would comply with their obligation of trust and confidence towards her. Miss Adams has since gone on to work for Bear's Place, a women-only support service for victims of sexual violence, partly funded by Big JK. There you are. Miss Rowling is on the board of directors, along with former prison governor Rona Hotchkiss, previous Scottish Labour leader Joanne Lamont, GP Margaret McCartney, and Director for Women Scotland Susan Smith. All of the board members have been critical of the Scottish Government's effort to reform the Gender Recognition Act. Rowling posted a statement supporting Miss Adams on X, formerly Twitter, saying that her priority had been survivors of rape and sexual assault, because, you know, at the end of the day, that's what a rape crisis centre is supposed to be about, but everyone's spending time and money going, the opinions of our staff, never mind the purpose of our organisation, the opinions of our staff is what matters. Bloody stupid. She said, aside from being a highly qualified support worker, Roz is a person of bravery, integrity and compassion. The board of directors of Edinburgh Rape Crisis Centre said they were saddened by the outcome of the tribunal. Yeah, well, get it up, you. The statement said, we are fully supportive of Rape Crisis Scotland's commissioning of an independent review of ERCC practice. This will help ensure our practices and procedures meet the highest standards as set out in the Rape Crisis National Service Standards, and that survivors receive the exceptional quality of support they deserve. Deputy First Minister Kate Forbes said she could not comment on an individual employment tribunal decision, but welcomed the Centre's reviews of its procedures. But anyway, yeah, this is absolute nonsense, right? This is, see when it comes to a rape crisis centre, your focus should be on protecting and giving counselling to the survivors of rape. It shouldn't be this Marxist totalitarian ideology bullshit. You're absolutely wasting your time and resources. See all the wages that were spent on the very, very many hours that probably went into this? Those should have gone to, you know, rape victims, like, your job, the thing that you do. Right, you shouldn't be focusing on this totalitarian fucking nonsense. You should be trying to help people. Right? If a rape victim doesn't want to talk to a man, then a rape victim does not want to talk to a fucking man, and that's it. I don't let a tough titty. Right? I think people should be able to have a little bit of a choice in the type of treatment that they receive. But anyway, absolutely stupid. Excellent decision and excellent comments by the judge. Jesus Christ. But I'm glad this. Basically, it's been very, very difficult for a good number of years, and we'll take the W's where we can get them.